So last week we were with the Changeling in the 1920s. So I found a story about a chick who actually did some pretty badass shit from the 1920s and a movie about her. So this movie was made in 1952 and it's called The $1 Million Mermaid. And I love watching movies from this era because they really are just time capsules of horrific things. Like,
Well, the thing that I like about movies from this era, movies like this and movies like Singing in the Rain and like those types of productions, is they look so massive. Like everything about it looks just gigantic. Like the sets, some of the sets that they use are absolutely huge. And the costume designing and like all of that is
definitely.
so fascinating, and it's just beautiful to like look at on the screen. And that it's beautiful now, and we have so much technology. We're seeing everything in fucking 4K and 3D and everything
Yeah.
else. I can't even imagine being someone in like the era where television or where movies are switching from black and white into like full blown talkies and then like all of the color and everything. I can't even imagine like living through that and seeing something on as big a scale as this movie in particular was, and just being like, I would be completely blown away.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's just the artistry that's involved in when they made these types of movies, unmatched.
Oh yeah.
Totally unmatched.
Definitely. Absolutely. But they also
Are
do blackface.
horrible. So
So,
bad. Blackface and brown face and just, oh god. And listen, okay, before we get going, one thing I hate about these older movies, and I don't know if it's just me, I don't know if I'm the weird one, but the thing is, anytime anybody is kissing in these movies, it looks like they are like shoving their
oh
faces
my
together as
God!
hard as they possibly can. They're trying to
Literally,
eat each other. Who kisses
literally,
like that?
it's in the
Who
note.
does that?
It's in the notes.
But
I
it's
was like,
not just
it
this
looks
movie.
painful.
But
It
it's not just this
looks
movie is the thing. Any movie from this era that you
every
watch,
time.
any and kissing anywhere, kissing on the cheek, kissing on the forehead, they're literally like shoving their
Oh yeah.
mouths as hard. Like, is this like a holdover from the silent movie era where they had to be like overly expressive? Is that what this is? Like, why were they kissing like this? Because I'd never want to kiss
No.
anybody. I'd be like, I am gonna vomit. Like,
No.
I'm gonna hyperventilate with how fucking
Hard
mushed
you're
up
be
against
pushing
me.
on my face. No.
I would
This was
have bruises.
definitely
I bruise so easily. You would leave bruises on my skin
yeah.
trying to kiss me that hard.
This
I
was
wa
definitely a um like how the transatlantic accent is only a movie thing. That kissing is only a movie thing.
It's
Like
gotta be. It's
there's
gotta
no
be.
way
If
that's
somebody tried
real.
to kiss me like that, I'd pop
Yeah.
them in the fucking mouth when they got done. Like, don't fucking do that. It's so
I
gross.
think it had to do with I feel like I read somewhere though or saw something that was like the kissing like that did have something to do with the decency laws and shit. Like they had to be very careful with what was
Oh.
shown and things. And
Do we
that's
want to
just
see
how
lips actually touching?
yeah, I think that's how that just manifested. And I do agree it probably also comes from like a time of no sound. So we had to be big, everything's big.
Hmm.
I think that did bleed over. So yeah, that they'd be
Yeah, I
dramatic
mean
of
that makes
just
logical sense.
like
Literally, like they're
oh,
fighting
so
each
hard.
other with their faces.
Yeah. And just like
I don't get it.
like
It's the most uncomfortable
craziness.
thing. It's the most uncomfortable thing to watch
Yeah.
ever. I'd rather watch 50 Shades of Grey than watch people kissing like that because it is so
And
awkward.
they really do linger on it too. Like we got to get the
So
full
long.
on
There's no peck.
close up action and
And then, okay, the thing that gets me is like they're not just smushing, like they're moving their head
Yeah,
around, like pushing into like, bro, please, I can't.
right.
I can't. Just please
Okay,
stop.
so this movie, it came in real hot with.
Oh, immediately.
So one thing I do hate about, and I will say, I feel like I lived through a time where I remember how all movies began this way with the credits first. So it took
Oh
forever
yeah.
to get into the movie, and then finally somewhere along the line, someone was like, "Let's put it at the end,"
Yeah.
and I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, thank
Disney
God."
movies. Sleeping
Yeah,
Beauty and all of those Disney movies, they all started out that way when we
yeah,
were kids. Yeah, you would. You would have, and then we had Star Wars that shepherded in this like the
yep.
rolling
Monty
thing, and
Python
then
and the
it kind
Holy
of
Grail, they
I
made
give
a whole
those a
bit out of
pass.
it.
Yeah, I give Star Wars and Monty Python a pass with having shit at the beginning of the movie, but
Yeah,
otherwise I'm like, bro,
please
I
God,
will
put it
sit
at
and
the
watch
end.
the credits. I sit and watch the credits. I'm one of those people that does sit and look for familiar names because it's very the industry itself is very interesting to me and I like being able to like recognize, "Oh, hey, he worked on this, that, and the third, whatever." But also I'm like, "Can we just can you please show me the fucking movie?"
Yeah, I just want to get in
even
the
with
movie.
even with the way that some like TV shows run their credits in the front of like, you have like the lead in, the
Mm-hmm.
title and everything, and sometimes that shit goes on a little too long for me too. I'm like, I get it. It's all these people. I get it. I know
Yeah,
who's in here. That's why I'm watching it. Please show me the fucking
yeah.
TV
Let's do it at the
show.
end.
I skip them. I skip
I
them.
think there's an artistry to the whole. I think kids movies almost do it the best, when they're animated and like the end
Hmm.
credits kind of start and it's just a little extra in the movie and it's kind of like da,
Oh
da,
yeah, Robin
da,
Hood.
and it's like, oh, name next
Robin
to
Hood
who
is
did
my
this
favorite.
face.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
a
anime
lot
does
of
it the best.
yeah,
Anime does that
anime
ending the best. I
what
will
else?
say though, what I miss about anime, and I was just talking to my friends about this before because I was watching what was I watching? I was watching Naruto. No, 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 no. I was watching Inuyasha. That's even worse than Naruto. I was watching Inuyasha and they do these little stupid bits at the end from anime from that
Yes.
time where it was like, who's in the well? And it was like, and Naruto did it too. And like, so few animes do that now. They just jump straight to the credits, which can be fun. Like Jujutsu Kaisen's credits are some of my favorite credits in
Season
any
1,
anime
like
ever.
the first half of
That
season 1, I
the
loved.
dancing
Yes.
so good. It's so
Love
good,
it.
but also I want the stupid bullshit that comes along with anime too of like it's a who's that Pokemon kind of thing, but
Yeah.
it's whatever anime you're watching. I
Uh
miss that.
I feel like
I
Demon
will allow that.
Slayer, uh one of the newer ones does it. Demon Slayer does a cute little one
That's what
and
my
then
friend said.
um
I haven't watched Demon Slayer. I tried a couple times and I just kind of I couldn't get into it at the time. I'll try again. I'm just weird
Dragon.
with shit.
I do feel like
Yeah, I'll try
his
again.
I feel like
Firefly
season
likes
1
it.
is a little bit of a kind of like Jesus
It
Christ,
was a
get your
kind of a
powers
drag.
already. Huh?
Yeah, it was kind of a drag.
Yeah.
That's probably why I fell off.
By season 2 though, like honestly, I'd be kind of like skip it. You'll get it. He's in the forest. He's trying to get strong enough. He makes it. Great.
From what I remember, I made it to when he ran into the pighead man, the
Yeah.
kid with the, and they're in they got hurt or something, and they're like laying down and
Oh, so you
resting,
dig
and they didn't
it.
want to rest. I
You
got
dig it pretty far
relatively
then. So you
far.
got past the whole thing where he had to break the rock open
Oh yeah, I got
and stuff
past all
like.
that. I don't mind that as much, like the whole like training montage for a couple
Yeah.
of episodes. I don't mind that a lot, but that's also because I love Naruto and like Naruto is just seasons and seasons of training
I
montages
don't
and
like Naruto at all.
backstory,
I
which
can't
is
get into
fair.
that show
Which
at
is
all.
fair, but I like that. I don't know what it was specifically that made me I'll get back into it. But yeah, that's what my friend was saying with that they picked up a couple of those kitschy little things. And
Mhm.
like I those are my favorite, but I also was an OG reader of the original Full Metal Alchemist manga, and they had in the manga and then in the original TV show, not Brotherhood, but the first one, the author wrote herself as like this little cow character, and she would have like conversations with herself at the end of the manga as like this little fucking cow in an office, and they put that at the end of the so like those things, those are so fun. And if every movie credit had something stupid like that,
Then it'd be worth it. It would be
it would
worth it.
be worth it.
Like Cars. That's the movie I was thinking of that I feel like the kids movie that did it best. Cars. At the end of theirs, they give you see the little how Radiator Springs is doing good. They have like a whole bunch of little bits right after. It's amazing.
I'll
And
just have to trust you. I
yeah.
Firefly watched Cars like once and she was totally over it. She did not like that
Yeah.
at
Just fast
all.
forward
So
into just the
and
base.
go
You'll
to
be like, oh yeah,
the
this is great. Yeah. But so
we
anyways,
got
now that we're
so
like
off track.
an hour into this and we still haven't even talked about the
Yeah, we
movie.
got so off track.
Okay. We come in on Australia. The movie came in real hot with they're talking about Australia and they're like, it's the 1900s when the culture is finding its place. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. Here we go. Oh, did culture find fucking Australia? Anyways, so and there you're pulling in with a music conservatory, and you hear classical music playing, and the voiceover is talking about Bach is coming in or blah blah blah. Then you
Yeah, and
see
ain't nobody look Australian or sound Australian.
not one fucking
Not
accent in the
one person.
entire place. Not one. And there was a little part of me, and this is really dumb, and I know this is gonna sound dumb, so don't get me wrong. But you know how like our accents have all changed over like how I sound now is not how a person from Virginia would sound in the 1700s and so on. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is it possible that the Australian accent we all know just wouldn't have existed back then?
Well, it did evolve. It
Yeah,
did evolve. Yeah, it evolved from a combination of the accents, quote unquote accents that indigenous people already had when they landed there, and then it combined with the accents of all of the fucking criminals
right.
that
The
Britain
English.
decided to just drop off there. So
Yeah,
yeah, it is the accent that we hear today and that we recognize as Australian would not have been exactly the same as it was 1800s, but I feel like by the time that this movie was set, they would have had at least a mildly British sounding accent. Like a
yeah.
mildly something would have been weird about it. And I say
Weird.
weird affectionately.
Yeah.
Like affectionately
They would not
something would have
sound
it would have sounded different.
transatlantic. That's what they
Fuck
wouldn't sound like.
no. No, but every fucking person in this movie except for
Yeah,
like two guys in London. There's two people in London that have an actual fake British accent, but
yeah,
every single person in this movie just sounds transatlantic.
yeah.
Like they didn't try at all.
No, no, no. So you come in and it's a little girl looking out of a window and she has leg braces on and she's watching other little girls dance down below and uh oop,
Her dad catches her watching them. He comes in and he says
oh,
something about, "Oh,
I
the
read down too
Beethoven."
far and I was like, what? Yeah. So the dad comes in and he sees her staring out the window and he's like, oh, are you sad? Don't be sad. You you don't have those things, but you have music and that's all
Yeah,
you
he says
need.
music
And
can provide you with happiness or something
yeah,
like that. And I was like, "What a fucking just
there was a part of me
disrespectful."
like hear me out though. There was a part of me that I was like, I feel like most dads back then weren't even being that kind. And I was
Yeah,
like,
I did get that too.
for being the 1950s,
Well,
I
the
think,
20s.
oh, yes, the 1920s, but it's 1950s were writing this script.
Right.
Um, I do feel like it was very gentle parenty, like, and it
Yeah,
wasn't
he was
like,
trying to
oh,
like
you don't need dance or whatever, but it was like he gave an alternative. It wasn't like just get over it. It was like there are other passions.
yeah.
It was better. I was pleasantly surprised of how not awful it
Yeah, he
was.
just kind of like
You know?
tried to redirect her. Even if
Yeah.
it wasn't in the right direction, he was trying to redirect her,
Yeah.
but into the thing that he
Oh yeah,
liked.
straight into his passion. His
Yeah.
Yeah. So she goes over to the piano and she starts playing and he's like, "Good job." And he leaves. And then the next scene is him like downstairs somewhere playing with his own people and the maid comes in and she's like, "Little girl's gone." And he's like, "Well, where is she?" And she and I just was like, "Dang." The maid does not give two shits because the maid wasn't
Mm-mm.
like, "We have to find her, sir." The maid was just more like, "Look, man, I got shit I gotta do. I can't watch your kid." Like,
Yeah, yeah. I
not
can't keep
even,
track of her. She
yeah.
runs away every
And
fucking day. I can't do this.
yeah, and the dad's like, "No, it's fine. I don't blame you. I just gotta figure out where she is." And he's like leaving, and the maid's just like, "Ah, pfft," and like walks away. Like nobody else cares. The kid's missing. So the dad's out finding her, and you see her going towards a lake. So of course you're like, "Oh my God, she can't swim. She has leg braces on." And will the dad get to her in time? And she's in the water. And he does find her, but you're like, "Oh, well, she's swimming. She's
Yeah.
okay." And he's like, "Well, get back over here, get to the land." And she's
He
like,
starts freaking out.
"Yeah." He's like, "Shit, get over here!" Like, and she's like, "I'm fine. I love
I
swimming."
learned to swim.
Yeah,
Right.
she goes, "I can't drown. I know how to swim."
Yeah.
And so it does play very much like the dad's like, "Oh my God, you can't do this. You're gonna hurt yourself." And she's like, "I feel stronger when I swim. I want to swim." And then he's like, "Okay, then we'll swim every day." And
Yeah, she tells him I can even walk a little better now, and she like
yeah,
walks a couple of paces without her braces on. I'm assuming she had polio because it seems right along the lines. She walks
yeah,
a couple paces, and then he's like, "All right, I guess we're fucking
yeah.
swimming."
He's like, and
And
this whole time, I really only wrote him in my notes as Daddy because I was just like, he's a pretty good dad. He's like, "All right, man,
yeah,
you
he's
fucking love
trying.
swimming. We're gonna fucking swim then." And so then
Right.
little montage starts of she's swimming all over the place, and then she's walking, and then she's more winning more swim competitions, and she's dancing, and
Yep.
more trophies filling up everywhere. Um,
And then she wins the
oh,
championship.
I did write this down. Back when he did find her swimming and he gets her out, and his first thing is like, "Well, I've got to be cross with you." And I was like, and that's pretty wholesome. That's like, I
Yeah,
gotta,
like I we
why are
got
you making me
yeah.
yell at you? Like,
Well, not even that. That's like a more like, listen, I don't normally do this, but you're gonna be in trouble. Like, I can't
you,
not be
yeah.
like a disciplinarian right now.
So, uh, so the montage ends with now she's older now. She's a grown up.
Mhm.
And she's winning another competition and she's bringing home a trophy and she comes home to show her dad the trophy and he's in the middle of a conversation where a guy's like, "Sorry, times are times right now." He's like, "Oh, I know." And he's taking his kid away, so you're immediately like, "Uh-oh, something's happening financially with the neighborhood." So, and the dad seems very distracted and sad, and the girl's just going, "La la la, look at my trophies, la
Yeah.
la la," flittering
Yeah.
around. And he's like, "I'm shutting the place down because we have no students and nobody can pay for us." So, and she's just kind of like, "Oh my goodness, what are we going to do?" So then he's like, oh, she's like, "Well, I can win money. I can compete in more competitions with my swimming." And he's
Right.
like, "No, no, 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 no. No daughter of mine will be working. That's no." don't be silly, focus on your music and your ballet. And he's like, I got a friend in London. I'm going to go work for him and you'll make friends in London. And that's what we'll do. And she's just like, then that's what we'll do. Yay. And
Good grief.
it was very much like, this was a moment I was like, that's how quickly we're dropping the dreams? Like,
Right? Yeah, let's just go like
yep.
5,000 miles, whole different continent. We'll be
I just love,
fine.
because this is where you could probably see this conversation in so many movies, especially coming of age movies, between the young teenager saying, I was thinking I could do this with my life, and the parent being like, tut, 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 don't be silly. You're going to college or something, And
Right.
I feel like the 1950s version was very much like, what a great idea. I love that. Like where the teenager immediately gives up. Immediately is like, you're so
Yeah.
bright, Daddy. What a great idea. Silly
Uh,
me, like,
I didn't want to do anything with my life anyway.
right?
Like
Like, what a silly goose I am. So, all right. So
And then the next scene I think is
yep.
the,
So now
they're on the boat.
they're on the boat and a runaway kangaroo is happening. And I'm
With
just like,
fucking boxing gloves on.
right? Which I was immediately like, time before PETA. That was a time before PETA, people.
What the fuck?
Like,
Yeah, they're on the deck, and all of a sudden, this kangaroo just comes barging in, and this
yeah,
guy is chasing after him and getting the shit kicked out of him, but not too much, because the
not too
kangaroo
much.
will fuck your shit up. This kangaroo is like playfully bopping him,
Oh, yeah.
like not
This is,
actually hurting this man.
I just love, look, man, I did love this because this is like classic slapstick. Like, this is your comedic
Yeah,
relief
it
in
was.
these movies. And I was like, I didn't laugh, because I'm just like, animal abuse,
Yeah,
but I do appreciate the artistry of it, like the very bumbly comic relief Three Stooges act. Like,
yeah,
I
yeah. Of this fucking guy trying to wrangle in this fucking kangaroo with
right, and I
boxing
was
gloves
just like,
on.
I just love that was peak comedy. That was,
Yeah, that was hilarity
oh, people were
at that
going nuts
time.
for that shit when this movie came out.
Oh,
Whole room
yeah.
broke out. That was
Yeah,
top notch
absolutely.
comedy right there, and I'm just like, wow, times have changed, haven't they? Like, woo.
Can you imagine showing them a crunchy meme? I just don't, just once.
Oh my
I just
god.
want somebody from that time to see just the crunchiest, most bottom text, ridiculous meme
Well,
I could come up with. Just once.
we have
Because,
to. They're still alive. People from the 50s, so they
yeah.
gotta. There
But I
has
meant
to be
more,
a grandma
I meant like the
reacting
20s.
somewhere. Well, that's very true. From the
Yeah.
20s, it
They
would
probably
blow their
can't
fucking
see.
minds.
They'd be so fucking.
But okay, this woman. I, we're gonna end up talking about this later, anyways. No, we'll wait. We have to get on
Yeah,
track.
that's right. Anyway,
We are very flighty tonight. Tell you what.
yeah, we are
So
bumbling right around everywhere. So as this guy is
yes,
trying to wrangle this kangaroo, this other
yes,
guy
kangaroo's
comes running in.
and he is your jack of all. He's like your typical fast
Salesman.
talking
Yeah, he's just a
sales
salesman.
street guy. Hey,
Yeah.
doll, just you're just kind of. Personally feel
Gross.
ick. Yeah,
Yeah, total ick. Just
total ick.
immediate. Ugh. No.
But for some reason, I feel like there was a little part of me that's like, but when this movie came out, was he supposed to be ick? You know what I mean?
No. Well, he he was supposed to be the one that she should not get with. He was
He's
still
supposed to be
supposed to
sexy bad
be,
boy, right?
yeah, he was supposed to be like bad boy, like you're not, it's not going anywhere type of thing. He wouldn't have
Yeah.
given anyone, except for like mothers, the ick, because
Yeah.
mothers know, we always
We
know,
know. We know.
but
So,
for like youngins, nah, he wouldn't have given them the ick at all.
yeah.
They would have fallen over their fucking selves like idiots.
Like idiots. So and he's definitely like, hey cutie. And the dad is like, no.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely not.
daddy is catching on and
Absolutely not.
daddy is not feeling what he's trying to put down. So he's telling them about that the kangaroo is his investment. It's
Right.
for his
And it's like a
show.
sideshow, yeah,
Yeah,
circus thing.
he's like a circus guy. Okay.
Mm.
So and he's telling them, oh, where are you headed? London. I'll be in London. Let me get you some tickets. Come see the show. And she's like, and dad's like, no. And the guy's still kind of trying, and then he eventually, like, they walk off. Oh, the captain comes
Yeah, and
down. The
they,
captain is like,
yeah.
get your fucking kangaroo, or I'm dropping your asses off at the very next stop. Like,
Well,
keep
he
him
does,
below
and
deck.
he, right, and he does recognize her. So the salesman guy
Oh, he
does
does.
recognize her because she was in the paper. They took a picture of her for the paper for winning that competition. So
Yes.
he's also trying to talk to her about some kind of mermaid show he has an idea for, of her to like swim as a mermaid or something in his circus. He mentions a mermaid because the
Yeah,
dad
but I
says
don't think.
she's gonna be a ballerina. She's not a fucking mermaid. Because I specifically
Yes.
remember dad being like, she's not a mermaid.
Yeah.
We're not doing the swimming. We're not doing a mermaid. No, she's gonna go and be a fucking ballerina. Which, like, give dad props. We went from you can't even walk outside the house to you could be a fucking primo ballerina if you want
Yeah.
to. So give him props. But yeah,
Yeah.
he definitely mentioned
Daddy's a
something
supporter.
about her. He
Yes.
mentioned something about her being in his show somehow or something about
Well,
her
because what
swimming
it
and being a
jumps to,
mermaid.
so when he's first meeting them, he does go, what is your name? Like, as the dad's trying to walk her away, and she says it, and he's like, you're that swimmer. And
Mhm.
then they kind of walk off, and he's like, you see the dollar signs popping him. So it's already a weird dynamic they're setting up of he at one point at the very same moment is like, hey sexy lady, hitting on her, but also, oh, I'm gonna make money off of you, which I'm like,
It's giving Andrew Tate.
yes. So
It's giving 1920s Andrew Tate.
very,
So sorry.
this is very alpha, and it's barf.
Ugh.
So
Ugh.
so then it cuts to the ship. Everyone is singing together, like everyone, it's nighttime now, and everyone's drinking and singing together. And I wrote down, I was like, okay, so we're singing together, and I was like, okay, but we're also in a time where there'd be like maybe a radio around. So would that actually be entertainment? Like, is that like, oh yeah, people would do this on a
Well,
ship, they'd all sing
if
together, or is it just because it's
if
supposed to be like a musical, you know?
they're sailing in the 1920s from Australia to England,
Yeah.
I don't, okay, I know that as far as ship communications, they have enough radio power to be able to radio ship communications. But would something like music stations on the radio, would their radios that place that are simply for enjoyment, would they have enough power when you're in the middle of the fucking ocean going around all of these countries? Would they have enough power to pick up radio signal? Because I mean, when you think about it, there's even like back home where I'm from in the fucking holler, right? When I go home, there's like 3 radio stations that I can access in a car
Yeah.
because and they're all it's 2 country stations and 1 fucking classic rock station. And if I get closer to actual town, which is still not what you would consider a town up here, there's a 4th one that's like a mixture of new shit and pop music from anywhere up to the 80s. So, like,
Yeah.
at this point in the 20s, was their radio capacity good enough? Or would they have had to have, like, one of the what are the little the records? Would they have had to play a record?
They probably have to play a record, but also I think more people played instruments back then, honestly. So if they're making their own
Maybe?
music and they make their own music, like in this, it's supposed to be, I'm pretty sure they were playing music. But anyways,
We think about these little details so much more than the actual filmmakers do. Every
probably,
movie that we talk about, there's one point where we're both like, "Hold on a minute. Hold on. Hold on." And we start getting in the weeds.
right?
That's a very autistic thing to do. I just want to point that out. That's full autism on display of like, hold, but magnets, the magnets and the
I
radio.
I've always joked about like um like for Fallout, me personally, I'm very Fallout, but I feel like it happens with any game when there's a bunch of them where people will be like, oh, they put this radio here, maybe signifying that the mother murdered this, or like, and we all come up with like little fan theories of what
Fan
that
theories.
meant. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm like, how I just fucking bet you guys that they're sitting there getting high and shit and being like, man, what are we gonna do over here? And then they'll be like, wait, what that kid on YouTube say? Yeah, all right, put the book there. They, like
Yeah, put the
taking our
radio
fan
right
theories
there.
and being like,
Yeah.
that's a good idea. Let's do that one. Like, like they were just putting shit somewhere, and we're like, that chopstick being over there means, and they're just like, fuck, man,
Yeah,
that's a good
I feel like
one. Like,
we forget that A24 is not creating everything we consume. Because that's the only production company where I can look at and reliably say, like, I literally just got done watching an hour and a half long video essay about all of the little bits and pieces in Hereditary that line up and what they line up with in real life. A24 is the only company making shit right now that gets into that level of detail that we as crazy autistic bitches get into when we're watching shit. So no, there's no way that they thought about any of this.
like
This is why I can't make things because I get too fucking caught in the weeds.
the weeds matter. It matters. People need to pay attention to these things. Okay, we gotta get back on track.
Anyway,
oh, I did write down uh when so it's nighttime, people are singing, you see her standing at the I guess it's supposed to be, the railing of the
she's on the
fucking
deck.
deck.
She's on. It's the
Yes.
deck. It's the deck.
For over here. And he comes up to her, and this motherfucker's gonna open with I mean, he says it in a weird old-timey way, but basically, oh, you're too pretty to be athletic. That's surprising, like, where I was just like,
What the
that's not
fuck?
a compliment. But she took it as a compliment. That got her in there. So they're talking, and this is where he pitches to her the idea of, we can have a pool and you could be swimming, and of an act pretty much for her, and she's
Or maybe
getting
that's
all,
where. Yeah.
yeah, and she's getting real excited. She likes it. And the dad is sitting on a bench a little ways away. And I don't think they're supposed to realize he's there because he has his hat on and stuff. And then when he says you could be a mermaid, that's when the dad comes up and goes, she's not a mermaid. She's a fucking ballerina, and you'll get
Okay,
nothing of her.
I
Oh,
mushed those two
yeah.
scenes in my head.
And when he's
Yeah.
hitting on her, and asking her to be a singer, he says like, he says something about her being pretty, and he's like touching her arm, and he's like, all right, could just be my hot blood. And I was like, is that,
Ew.
was that a thing? Please tell me our grandfathers went out there being like, you feel my hot blood? Like, ew. He says it multiple times. It wasn't even just once. He said it
I'm glad I
multiple
missed that.
times.
Yeah,
It was,
I must have blocked it out from my
yeah,
memory
it was
because
gross.
I don't remember him saying that at all.
Yeah.
Ew.
So after the dad shuts it down and he's like, she's gonna be a fucking dancer, they're in London, and unfortunately, he's at the gates of what used to be his friend's school, but I guess got shut down. And now he's like, well, we spent all our money to get here. And she's like, it's okay. We're not going to start. She's staying very positive about it. Because the reality is, they're fucking homeless right now and have nothing.
Yeah.
So, uh, but it does jump to, she, what I said, I was like, she's dressed like Mary Poppins. The outfit was literally a Mary Poppins, like, for
Mhm.
sure.
Mhm.
And they're in an apartment, so I guess their $6 did at least get them a room somewhere. And
Mhm.
it's fucking Jimmy from the
Well,
ship.
no, first she goes to the pawn shop and it shows
Oh
her
yeah, it
hawking
does
all of
show her.
her
Yeah, it
she's
does show
hawking all of
her.
her trophies that were made out of silver or
Yeah,
whatever they were made out of, and she gets like $1.50 for one of them.
yeah. Which she was
Yeah.
like,
And that's when
this is
she
good.
comes back to the apartment
Yeah,
and she runs into Jimmy and what the fuck is the other dude's name? I can't remember.
Doc. It's Doc.
Curly. Yeah, Doc. Doc.
Curly. It could have been Curly, but
Right?
it was Doc.
Yeah,
And
she runs into them.
yeah, and okay, so I said Jimmy found her because I feel like she goes home and he knocks on her door, and I was like,
Like immediately.
how
Yeah.
would he know
How
where
d
she fucking lives? But I was like, oh,
yeah.
Jimmy found her. And
Yep.
so he's like, oh, we were going to invite you to dinner, and Doc's like, we were, and he like hits his shoulder like,
Yeah.
and she's like, oh, pish, you're gonna eat here. I'm gonna cook. I'm making Australian stew. And they have this joke where she's like, it's like Irish stew. And he's like, well, how's it
Except
different?
that
She's like,
the
the
meat is
meat's
down
down
under.
under. And I was like,
Ugh,
I was like, ah, this is freaking
so bad.
so
So
they're like,
bad.
oh no, we wouldn't want to impose, but like he wants to impose. And she's like, of course, sit down. And so he's telling her, we have it all set up for our kangaroo, but we need something that will bring in the crowd. So could we pay you to like just come and promote, and people will, and you'll point them towards the kangaroo, and we'll pay you like $6. Well, obviously she really needs the money, so she's like, and I think she
Well,
just wants
no,
to work with
first,
them.
no, what did they say? She said something about staging a swim for her, and she was going to swim like 6 miles. It was like
Yes.
a really short, like, well, 6 miles to me is like I would fucking die and kill over.
Oh yeah.
But apparently to her, it's
She
short
was
as
like,
hell
that's
because
not
she's
enough.
like, nobody's going to come for 6 miles. How about fucking 23 or
Yeah.
whatever? And they're like, uh, I
Okay.
guess.
Yeah.
Right.
They're like, okay. So they get on, and it's like a foggy fucking night, and he's like, I told the press we'd be here and nobody's here. And she's like, well, I guess we better start fucking swimming. And first of all, I was like, okay, I know it's supposed to be like 1920s or 1900s, excuse me, we're saying the 1920s. This woman was live in the 1900s, or the movie said it was 1900s Australia when she was first born, and then went into 1920s.
Yeah.
Anyways, either way, that river is probably fucking disgusting.
Yeah, it's the River
And
Thames. And I know it's disgusting now. I can't imagine it was any less disgusting, maybe with less plastic. And that's it.
yeah,
That river,
because aren't we
horrid. But
talking?
she jumps
It's,
in like it's nothing.
oh yeah, she's like, yeah, let's
She
do this.
says,
First of all, it
"Oh."
also has to be freezing. And
It
I
is because
feel
she says something
like,
about being cold.
yeah, but I feel like there should be more of a reaction than that. Like,
There
because
wasn't.
she had like
They
no
were on a
reaction.
fucking sound
And I'm like, you've
stage.
been swimming in Australia, and I could be dumb. There might be really cold water in Australia, and this could be the dumbest thing in the world to say, but I feel like there's not a lot of cold water down there, like naturally. Like the Atlantic, especially up there, is like very cold. And
Right.
I feel like you would be more like, woohoo, what the fuck is that? especially on a foggy, rainy morning. But either
Right.
way, there's no visibility at all. She almost gets hit by a bigger boat, and they're like, "Oh shit, there's a person in the water." And they're like, "We'll throw you something." And she's like, "No,
And that's where the
thanks."
two guys that sound mildly
Yeah,
British, so like the worst fake British accent. That's the only two people in the whole film
yeah,
that have any kind of accent.
yeah. So, and they're like, "What the fuck?" And she just swimming along. And that's kind of how it happens. Of it kind of shows people like kind of seeing them and being like, "What's happening?" And then walking, and you start to see crowds of people talking about the woman on the boat, and then you see
A bridge.
the bridge, but you also see where like they're typing like "woman swimming in the Thames" and like "get this to the papers," and
Yeah,
then people are like reading it in the paper, and I was like, wow, they really cranked them out there like in the moment, huh?
right.
Because people are starting to go to bridges and now and see her like the strange woman swimming in the river, and
I think at this point is when she starts to kind of slow down and they realize that she has not eaten
oh, she's like,
anything.
I gotta eat. She's like, oh, I'm gonna
Yeah,
pass out, and he's like, okay, great, get me the basket. And Doc is like, uh basket?
we don't have any
He's like,
money.
yes, the basket you were supposed to pack. He's like, the
Yeah.
basket you were supposed to pack? And he's like, bitch, did you forget her food? And he's like, so then the one guy is like, well, I'll go to shore and we'll be right
Jimmy
back.
is like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't even have any fucking money to
Yeah,
get
they don't
her
have anything
anything.
to buy with, so they have to like go. So luckily people are crowding around and he's able to find like, oh, this lady gave me this lady gave me this, and he got a baby bottle. And I was like, he got other food, but when she swims up to the boat to get her food, he only gives her the baby bottle. And he's like, there you
Because
go.
she
And
didn't
she swims away.
he didn't get her anything to drink. The only thing he brought to
Oh,
drink
yeah,
was the fucking baby bottle
just
with
the baby
milk in
bottle.
it and or formula, whatever it was in there.
Which,
That's the only thing he brought her to
okay,
drink.
did they even have formula back
Yes.
then?
I knew you were gonna ask this,
I
and
was going to
yes,
ask,
formula
because
was
my
invented.
grandmother told me she didn't feed my, that she couldn't breastfeed. So she fed her kids, that canned milk with honey in
I
it.
know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So formula was originally invented in 1860. So infant formula was invented in
Yeah.
1860. Um, but the thing about it is, especially like where we're from, the areas that we're from, if it was stocked and available at the local grocery store that our grandparents and great grandparents would have gone to, if they did have it, it was probably pretty expensive. So
Mm.
yeah, a lot of our parents grew up on like fucking that's why so many boomers are so weird about wanting to feed little babies cereal or rice to fill up their belly, because the only thing that they had available was shit like that to
Yeah.
feed the baby with maybe a little bit of honey in it, which coming from like a like food safety for infants, feeding an infant honey is one of the worst fucking things you can do.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that they had available.
Yeah.
So yeah, it being in greater London or being in all of the areas that the River Thames actually goes down, yeah, somebody probably had access to actual formula, or it was fucking breast milk that she was sucking out of that baby bottle in the middle of the
Because
river.
that's what I was getting at.
I'd prefer
That's what
I
I was
would
like, it
prefer the
probably,
formula.
I feel like,
Please give me the formula, not your
okay,
breast milk.
but like vitamin wise, the breast milk would be better for what activity she was doing.
But
So
here's the
she,
thing. Everybody's breast milk is so different and specifically formulated in our body for the babies that it's also possible for the stuff that you are immune to, that you are passing on to your baby, for the person who is drinking it to not be immune to it. So instead of them getting the immunization from your breast milk, they would just be getting straight fucking viral infections and shit from the fucking breast milk. So no, sincerely hope that that was formula in that bottle.
so the dad is also, because it's in the papers, is like, what the fuck is my, and in this moment I was like, oh, daddy's found out.
I
But
know. I was so worried.
I was worried. I was like, oh, daddy's found out. But then
It's
what
gonna
does
shut it
daddy
down.
do? Daddy fucking supports her. He's a proud dad. He's like, that's my fucking kid. Look at
Yeah,
her
that's my
go.
kid. And he's like
Immediately
running
changed,
between bridges. He's
right?
running between bridges to
Oh
go
yeah,
watch her.
to go meet her at wherever she ends up. And so I was
Greenwich,
like, look at you.
Greenwich.
Yeah, Greenwich.
It was
She was
Greenwich.
swimming
Yeah.
from London to
I
Greenwich.
don't know. I don't know. I
Right?
just know she was going to Greenwich and on the River Thames. That's all I know.
Yeah. And she passes Tower
She makes
Bridge.
it.
And she does. She's getting real tired. And okay, did you see when the scene where she was getting tired, her face was dirty? And I was like,
Yes.
why would your face be dirty?
Because of the river. Because the river's so fucking gross. I knew
Okay,
exactly in that moment. As soon as I saw her face, it was like black marks. I was like, "Oh, that's the river. It's coming from the river."
I was
It's
more like, okay, I was more coming from the standpoint because you could tell in a lot of these scenes, like, I give them props for their play of camera, but it is very easy to tell from where they were taking maybe actual filming a bigger area, possibly in London, to
oh
she's in a
yeah,
pool swimming. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
She's on a sound stage. Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
100% on a sound
And you could
stage.
tell those things. So I, for that to be the case, that means that was a makeup decision. That was them
They
going.
wanted you to know it was a dirty ass river. She was swimming
I
down for
thought more
6
like they were
fucking
like,
pounds.
well, I figured they were more like, well, they sweat and get dirty in land sports, so swimming's probably the same way. You know what I mean?
Maybe,
Like, I feel like that
maybe.
was their idea of like, yeah, you've been swimming all day, you've been playing football all day, you'll be dirty.
Yeah, I
Like,
I
and you're
might be
like,
ascribing intelligence to what was pure ignorance. But to me, it was like, oh, that's the river.
yeah.
This
For you, they were
disgusting
like
soot.
protesting. They were like, clean this fucking river. Look how filthy she is. And I feel like in the 1950s, nobody would be saying that. That was not, no.
Anyway, she gets there and they pull
Yeah.
her up, and
She
her dad's like, "Yay!"
Yeah, well, first they're like, she's getting real tired. She's like falling asleep in the water, and they're like, hey, let's just call it. We're not there, but
Mhm.
you made it far enough. We're fine. And this is a moment where you're like, okay, Jimmy's maybe not a terrible fucking person because he's not willing to kill her at least for his act. So,
Bare fucking minimum.
but she is like, no, I'm not quitting. I got it. Fuck off. And just as he's about to grab her, we're there. People are
Greenwich. Yep.
honking, everyone's cheering. Her dad pulls her in. She's passing out, but all the people want interviews. And Jimmy's like, go into my office and hey, does anyone want to see the kangaroo? And no,
And
nobody wants to see the fucking
nobody wants to
kangaroo.
see the
They're like,
fucking
no.
kangaroo.
So he's like, the dad's like, hey, can you get these reporters and stuff out of here? She's trying to sleep. She's fucking exhausted. And so they all leave, and
And then
he
we
ends
have a
up.
creepy ass Sleeping Beauty moment.
Yes, but it was not as bad as I thought it was gonna. Once again, I probably paint the 1950s in a way darker brush than maybe it could be, but they do some pretty fucked up shit. So in this scene, I was like, oh, how gross is it about to get? And I was like, not terrible. It's not terrible.
Yeah, it's just a kiss on the cheek, but he does the
Yeah, he
weird
does like
face smashy thing, and
yeah, he does. He is very like, oh, she's so beautiful. And she kind of wakes up and is like, I don't remember what she's saying.
she just said his
Um,
name. That's all she said. She said his name, and then
yeah,
she fell
and
right back asleep.
and then she fell right back asleep. So it was a moment where you were like, oh, she probably did want to kiss him. They kind of had that moment, and but then she falls immediately asleep. So you're kind of like, oh, Jimmy, what are you about to do? Like, and he just kisses her on the cheek, which yes, was a very dramatic and hard kiss, but it was just a little kiss on the cheek, and then he leaves, and I was like, okay, good job, Jimmy. Keep it consenting, which that's not super consenting, but uh,
Could
so
be worse, I
then
guess.
yeah, I said good job keeping it classy, and then so then Jimmy is like, look, my kangaroo's not making any money. Let's just fucking sell it. But he goes to them and he's like, you're the thing. You are the ticket. You are the show. You are what everybody wants to see after this. And she's like, and the dad is like, okay, even if we are planning on doing this, what are you talking? You don't even have a pool. And he's like, the
I
Hyperdome.
know a guy.
Yeah. He's like, the fucking Hyperdome in New York. And we're gonna do it there. And the dad's like, you're are you out of your fucking mind? Like,
Right.
you might as well have
And
just
then he's
said,
like, I know a guy. I did
yeah,
concessions. I know a guy. I have an in. I can do it.
yeah.
And then the
He's like,
doc is
and
like, oh,
she's
he
like,
could.
yeah, we'll just perform at the Hyperdome. I mean, which is clearly set up to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna get on Broadway, Dad. What are you talking about?
Hello.
From a little basement act. You know what I mean? Like, so, and but the dad's like, okay, even if that crazy fucking idea works, how the fuck are we gonna get there? We have no money, guys. And Jimmy's like, we're gonna sell the kangaroo, and I'll pay for everyone to go. You fly first class with Jimmy. And I thought it was funny that he said that. And then the dad's like, okay, and they sell the kangaroo. And Doc was very sad about selling the
Yeah.
kangaroo. But we get
But then
another
the
slapstick
kangaroo punched
moment where
him.
he's saying goodbye to the kangaroo, and the kangaroo punches him, and he falls down, and he's like, oh shucks, fuck you, kangaroo. Like, he's like,
I feel bad for
fucking
Doc this whole
kangaroo.
fucking movie. Doc gets the shit end of the stick in every
Yes.
fucking turn.
Oh yes. He just So then as they're
It
going
cuts
over to
to.
New York, they do good of
Mhm.
okay, so Jimmy said you fly first class with me. Well, not fly, but he's like you ride first class with Jimmy wherever you go. And then it shows when they get the tickets that they got in second class on the ship. And I was like,
Yeah.
Jimmy. So, and I felt like it was, and once again, this is probably not what they meant by it, but I was just like, it's kind of like a way of like showing how Jimmy is not all the talk that he's talking,
Well,
like,
it's all fucking talk. Yeah, that's all it is.
yeah,
It's all
that
fucking talk.
she sees him in this way bright, Jimmy light, and he's not. He's a liar and, uh, honestly, just getting lucky and using
Mhm.
her. So,
Mhm.
so they get into America, and they get to the guy at the Hyperdome, and he's like, great, your show sounds cool and all, but who the fuck is she, and why would I put her on my stage? Like, he's like, that her name means nothing. And he's like, this is Annette. She swam this. Look at these papers. Like, she has a name in London. And I feel like these days to be like, oh, a name in London is like, oh yeah, come over to America. But I guess back then he was like, and fucking
Well, yeah. I mean,
might as
now
well
we
told
have
me
the
she's from fucking Iowa. I don't care. Like,
yeah, like well now we have like the internet, right? So
yeah,
you can gather a fan base from literally all over the world. But yeah, back then he even says something about how she was just like a basically a blip in the paper
yeah,
over in America, especially New York. He's just like, none of this shit matters at all. And he says something about the stage, the water stage, the water tank that they use is used for only like finale type things. Like they don't
yeah,
even do like a full production in the water because it's just like a theater, right? Like the whole water thing is just like an extra thing, but you don't
yeah.
they're not like out in the open air or anything. They're just you can't see that shit. Like you can't see someone swimming around in this big tall pool. It doesn't make sense. Like I agree with him. From
Oh
a
yeah,
business perspective, he's totally right.
yeah,
Totally right. Doesn't make
definitely.
any fucking sense.
So they get turned down pretty much. But he is like, look, I'll give you a dancing job. If you want to come back Monday, I'll let you dance in a show. But this whole
Mhm.
pool thing, your show is not happening though. And so
Mhm.
she's like, I should take it. I just gotta make money. We gotta fucking be here. And he's like, no, you're my fucking act. We're doing this. Like, I know we can do this. So, he is like, you got famous in London by swimming far, so we'll do that here. We'll take it
Mhm.
down. We'll swim over to that lighthouse, and people will be amazed, and then we'll get in the
In
Hyperdome.
Boston,
Yeah,
right?
in
They go to
Boston.
Boston.
And
Yeah.
she's like, great idea. So then, huh, and this is where her big hoopla happens, because as you hit the beach, you see every woman is completely covered. gloves up to here, a little dress thingy with stockings, like every woman's covered. And through this whole movie, she's been wearing more what you would think of as a men's
Like a
bathing suit, like a
leotard.
tank top,
Yeah,
shorts, kind
yeah,
of,
it's like a
yeah.
leotard thing. Yeah.
So she shows up to the beach in that, and everyone is like, oh, oh, look at it. And all the women are hitting their husbands, and their husbands are like, whoa. And I was like, that's not what would happen these days. It'd be like, honey, look at that. And the man would be like, I'm looking. Like, but not everybody's mad. Nobody was looking. This was unacceptable. And she sees that and she's kind of like, I think we need to go. And he's like, no, we're swimming. What are they talking about? Let's go. And then so a cop does get called over
By
and
an old lady.
yeah, and she's like, she's being indecent, arrest her. And he's like, wait, yeah, you're indecent, I'm gonna arrest you. And the guy's like, how dare you, this is Annette, she's going to swim and stuff. And so then it cuts to her being in a room and crying, pretty much being like, this is
With
ridiculous.
newspaper everywhere because the
Yeah,
newspapers are talking about how she's so indecent and she got arrested and all this shit.
yeah,
Newspapers on literally every surface.
yeah. And she's just like crying, and she's having to go to trial, like she got arrested for this and she's being charged, and she's just like, I should just go home, I should just go. And the dad's like, no, we came here to do something, and sometimes you got to fight for those things. And Annette's like, okay, I'll stay, and okay, we're gonna
And then
fight.
she agrees to talk to the reporters that are apparently outside of her like
Yeah.
literally outside, and then invites them up to like their hotel room or whatever. And I'm like, get the fuck, ain't no way I'd invite a whole gaggle of fucking reporters in my hotel room. You are out of your fucking mind. It sounds like a nightmare.
Oh God.
Total nightmare.
Everything about that sounds like a nightmare, but I do respect her because she does go to trial, and the lawyer, is like yelling in her face, "You indecent harlot!" And she's like, "I wasn't indecent." And he's like, "You're lying. Everyone saw you." And she's like, "But I don't think I was indecent." And then the judge is like, "Okay, so what are we talking here?" And she, gets this little moment of like, it's not indecent, and there is a compromise. You can't swim in those dresses. And all the ladies are like, and so then she's like, look, I wasn't indecent, but I did sew on some leggings to it. Is this a good compromise? And the judge is like, yeah, that's a good compromise. And so now it's pretty much a wetsuit. Uh, you know.
Yeah, without arms.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just got, yeah.
Uh so she goes to trial, case
I think
dismissed.
now it cuts.
So
I think
now
now it
she's
cuts to where they're
famous.
doing the,
Yeah,
yeah.
so now she's able to have her own vaudeville act because now everyone knows the scandalous woman. And they're calling her
And they,
the perfect body, and she's doing
yeah,
these dives in this whole swim show. And
they had, but it's set up like a, it's still like a circus. Like it's still like in an
yes,
alley
yeah,
somewhere. Like Jimmy is very much just ramshackled this whole
oh
thing
yeah,
up with the pool for her, and they're saying, "Come see Annette in her one piece bathing suit." That's their whole thing. She's in a
pretty
one
much,
piece.
yeah.
Like,
And I just love how she's doing a pretty much a demonstration of swim moves. And
mhm.
he's like, for the first time in America, see the breaststroke. And I'm like, so this was a time we could just say anything we wanted. I was
Anything,
I was like,
every
no
single
way, that's the
different
first time in
swim,
America we saw someone
every
go like,
every single time she does it, she showcases the different swim move, a different type of swimming. He says it's the first time
first
in
time in
America, the first time in the
America.
USA. Like
Yeah.
it's just this big hoopla about everything she fucking does.
Yeah, and then she, does a bunch of diving, and everyone's all like, "Oh, oh," and it's going great. And then she ends up going to her room, and he comes in, and he's like, "This is great. We're going places." And then this is where you get the cringy kiss, where you're like, ugh. So they're together
Yeah.
now. Her and Jimmy are official. Um, and then uh so the kiss looks painful. So then the next day we see Jimmy's talking to this airplane guy. And he's like, "Oh, I could have you at my show." And Jimmy's like, "Or the other way around." And he pitches, he's talking to Doc, I think, about it, where he's like, "We could have King of the Air, Queen of the Sea. It could be a double act." So Jimmy wants to expand his circus pretty much.
Hmm.
And so then he goes to like tell her, I think, but she's with this other guy, and he wants to have her for lecturing. Um, And a part of me was kind of like, I feel like they're talking about something else. Like I'm thinking TED Talks, but I feel like that's not what they were talking about, but I'm not sure how his show was different. But he kept acting very more highbrowy about like,
Hmm.
oh, she would be dancing in my shows, or and Jimmy is very immediately turns into an asshole and is
It
like,
sounds like it
she
sounds like
can't
he's
dance. She's a sing like no
yeah,
part of him was arguing like, yeah, I know she's amazing. That's why she's staying here with me. He immediately just starts putting her down. He's like, this piece of
yeah.
shit on a stage? Come on, get serious. Like
He's a
he was
total dickbag.
oh,
Total dickbag
total
out of
fucking asshole.
fucking nowhere. Like
Yeah.
there was okay, he was a sleazeball before. He was obviously sleazy, used car salesman vibes, right? But this
Oh
just
yeah.
like rocketed. It's like, who the
Oh,
fuck are you?
he
Who
went straight like
are you talking
abuser.
to?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, oh, who the
straight
fuck?
abuse. Like, and just because she's thinking of working with someone, and it's not even like she's saying, Jimmy, fuck your circus. She's just saying, I can make extra money. He's offering me a lot of fucking money to do like this one show. And Jimmy's
Yeah,
just
and the
being
whole
a jealous
time
asshole.
they're doing like this little circus back alley thing that they're doing, it keeps showing stills of like where they have how many dates she's going to be on there, and it keeps showing where it's extended like from 6 weeks to 7 weeks to 8 weeks to 9 weeks. So she's been doing this for a while, and apparently it had some kind of expiration date. Maybe they were going to move on to a different city, or maybe Jimmy just did that to drum up more people coming to see them, thinking they were going to miss her or something. But if I was her, I would be under the impression that this was not going to last. This was not going to be my entire life. So
Well,
yeah, if
I think
somebody
you
else comes along and
also,
is like has something else that I could do also, then yeah, I'd be like, why should I limit myself to this one little thing? And then Jimmy comes just straight out the gate spitting pure hatred, and it's
oh yeah.
like,
Oh
what the
yeah.
fuck is
Like he's
happening?
insulting the other man. So Annette is a oh my God, I just have no vocabulary tonight. A driven woman. Like she has
Yeah, she's
goals. She
ambitious.
she's
Yeah.
just as ambitious as Jimmy is. And I think that's where they in watching this movie you're supposed to go, they're so compatible. They're both so ambitious. But
It
Annette's
doesn't actually
real
work.
yeah. And Jimmy's like selfish but also it's like he's having the ultimate masculine breakdown right now because Jimmy is as her manager going, I'm going to lose money, as the man who likes her is being like, oh, other people are looking at my pretty girl and I don't like that. And then also she's going to make more money than me and I can't support her if she's making more money than me. You know what I mean? Like right now
Here's
he
the
doesn't
thing,
see her as the breadwinner, but if she goes and does
right?
that, she becomes the breadwinner and bigger, way bigger than him, and he can't
Here's the
handle that.
thing. With men that are hyper ambitious in particular, not just men, this happens in women as well. People who are so hyper ambitious like that, and are once you get to a certain level of ambitious, you become rather controlling with everyone else around you, because it's this expectation, and I've seen it time and time again, of this expectation that you are a certain level ambitious. So everyone around you also needs to be that level of ambitious. But if they start to catch up with you and become just as successful as you are and just as ambitious as you are, it starts to like break down. And like it's like the veil of the curtain pulls away, and they realize that they're not actually as special as they thought they were, because they had this idea in their head that because they're so ambitious and no one can match them, that they are at the top of the fucking food chain. So then when you are threatened, when your place at the top is threatened by someone that you have been telling and on to be as ambitious as you, when they start to actually reach that level, it all falls apart. So I don't like people that are that money driven and that ambitious. Like B is very ambitious and he's very like money driven, right? He wants to get to a certain level before we reach certain milestones or whatever, which is fine because I'm not that ambitious like that. I'm not money driven. I'm very much life driven, of like work life balance and making
Yeah.
sure that like I have enough time to be myself and do the things that I want to do. I want to make enough to where I'm comfortable and my family is comfortable and stuff. But the thing about him is that he does not take what he perceives as ambition and apply that to me,
Yeah.
because you can't do that and then get mad at the person when they reach your level. It's a very controlling dynamic that I've noticed that a lot of hyper ambitious people run into, especially in their romantic relationships. And I can't stand it. I hate people that are like that. Like, bro, I do not have fucking time to play your goddamn mind games. And
No.
that's exactly what Jimmy is doing. That's exactly
Oh,
what's happening.
oh yeah. And he went straight out of like the
For
fucking
the jugular. He went straight to the jugular
well, also just
immediately.
straight out of the alpha handbook of make her feel like shit
Mhm.
so she doesn't have the confidence to go anywhere
Negging.
else. Yeah,
That's called
completely
negging.
negging
Yeah.
her. And the guy who wanted to come and take her. And then
She immediately has to get ready for a show. Like,
yeah,
literally, he's
so
like, "You have 20 minutes," and just walks
yeah,
away.
and yeah, so
And she does it. She gets dressed and she fucking does
oh,
the show.
well
I would walk out
he
of there so.
also drops the bomb that oh, you getting arrested at the beach? I planned that.
Oh yeah.
I knew that was going to happen and I knew that was going to be big. So that whole time of him being like, I support you, baby. I know this is going to be a hard time for you was fully
It
planned
was
out.
all a
Like your
scheme.
trauma,
Scheming and
I
scamming.
caused that so that I can make money. So, and it got you
Scheming
money.
and scamming.
Yeah. So, and so she is like,
She says
she
something
doesn't
about
like it.
how.
Oh, but so she's like, but they do need to get to the Hypodome. But she doesn't like what's happening.
Well,
Uh,
she says something about how she would never be in a relationship with someone who treated her this way, and she damn sure wouldn't marry someone who was treating her this way. Is that now or is that
uh,
later?
not quite. I think okay.
Okay.
So at some point, Jimmy angry goes to no after the fight. At some point, Jimmy shows her. Jimmy shows Doc that he got an engagement ring, and he
Right.
goes to her, and she kind of confronts him with like, "Hey, I don't want to leave my act, but we do need money right now. And he's offering me a lot of money to even just do one show. So I think it might be a good idea for us to make this money." And this is where he immediately starts being a rampagey asshole again and talking down to her and negging her again. And that's where she says, okay, I wouldn't be I'm not going to be in this. So then she
Yeah, and
ends up
she specifically mentions marrying someone who
yeah,
acts like this. Like,
which
I will
made
not
him
marry someone.
so with that being in his pocket, he immediately is like, "Okay, bet." So I'm not getting married. So he is like, "So we're leaving." And Doc is like, "You can't do this." And he's like, "Yeah, I can." And he goes over to the plane guy. And so
Hmm.
then she goes over she got a telegram for the Hyperdome that was like,
Hmm.
"Hey, let's do your show. You're big
Yeah,
enough now.
come
Your
talk.
name is big enough. We can talk." And she's like, "Oh my God, where's Jimmy?" And they're like, "Well, go. We'll talk to Jimmy later." And so she goes and he's like, you got it. Your name is big enough. And she's like, great. Okay, I just have to go tell Jimmy. She comes back and he's gone. Like
Jimmy's gone.
her stage is roped off and she's like, what's the fuck happening? What's happening right now? And so he bailed on her. And so then the next thing you see is her name in lights. And she's at the bottom, but she's up there with like Marcel the clown and stuff. And even I know who that is. So like you
Mhm.
are like, oh, this is like she's made it
Mhm.
even to have a tiny name in her
Mhm.
lights. And the stage is very impressive. And this is where
Mhm.
we get long shots of her doing her
Doing her
show.
routine.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
her
and it's
really pretty
beautiful.
costumes and stuff.
Yes.
And yeah, and I was just like, wow, this is where you're like, oh, the showmanship, like,
Yes,
looks
that's where it's
good.
at. That's where
Yeah,
it's
and
at. Oh,
she's
it's
like doing the
so good.
water dancing and stuff, and you're just
And then
like,
she's got
great.
people. It starts to grow as you're going through this montage. It starts to
Yeah.
grow. She's got like all these different people, all of these different swimmers with her. They're like swinging on these big things and then jumping off into the water. There's like escalators of water that they're like sliding down. Like it is, if I was to see a show like that, like right now,
Oh, I would be like,
I would
wow.
be, yeah.
Yeah.
If they had a show like that in Vegas, I would actually go to a show in
Oh,
Vegas. We
absolutely.
never go to a show in Vegas. Every time we go to Vegas, we never go to the show. If they had that, I would be begging.
I'd go to
I
that
will pay
show.
for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Uh so then it also shows so when her act is up and they change in the stage, she goes backstage and I didn't realize there was an elephant until like quite a few people had run by her and I was like, holy shit, there's an elephant. But she's watching the ballet dancer and the
Pavlova.
yeah, and I was just like, must have been a big name at the time because she reacts to her like, "Oh my God, I've been watching you forever. I love your dancing. I wanted to be a dancer." And Pavlova's very like, "You're amazing. You're awesome.
You're already
Never
dancing.
fucking
Like you're Yeah, she asked her like, "Did you do ballet?" And she's like, "Yeah, I used to do ballet." And she's like, "I saw your show. You're doing ballet in the fucking water. Like you're
yeah.
already doing it. Like you don't want to be a dancer. There's a million of me.
Oh
You're
yeah.
the only one.
Yeah.
You." Like she says something like, "They tell me all the time that there's only one Pavlova, but I know there's going to be dancers after me that are probably even better than me. But you were the only you. I've never seen anyone do anything like
Yeah.
this." And it was like, "Ah, that's the validation
Oh yeah.
that
She's
she
very like,
did."
"Holy shit." So, she gets a contract and then she also her so she's like, "Oh, awesome, but what about my dad?" Dad's got a job too. Dad's
Yep.
working the orchestra. So they're
Yep.
both fucking there, and her name is steadily moving up that list of popular here tonight, popular here, until it's like the whole building is her name. Um, and but she is still trying to track down Jimmy, but she can't find Jimmy. Just hears little bits here and there of like, oh, he was seen in this state or that state. Um, Oh, and this is where like she's talking to her dad about like because he's like, "Oh, have you found him?" And she's like, "No, but they said they saw him here." And the dad says some speech, and this is where I was like, "Ugh, I love you, daddy, but Jesus," where he pretty much is like, "It's the price a woman pays for achievement. No man's gonna fucking marry you now, but
I know.
the
What the
moment you let all
fuck?
this go, you could have that wife. You could be a wife." So, and I was just like, Ugh. So, she
I mean,
then we get
he can't be perfect, all right? Just
no, I know, and I'm just like fucking barf. So then you see her doing another show where she's actually like she has the bars and she's actually doing a ballet dance and her costume's even more of a tutu now and I was like, wow, it
but she's
looks
doing
so
it
good.
in the water.
Yeah.
She's doing it in the
Yeah.
water, and they have like these big coral cutouts over the side of the tank so that like each she's moving between the coral cutouts and
Yeah.
is like dancing on the bars, and then she dances in a big clamshell like through the water with the tutu on. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So unfortunately though, so while you're watching this and you're like fucking gorgeous, they show dad in the orchestra have a fucking heart attack and you're like,
Mhm.
not daddy. And then, so she's getting off stage. She's like, hey, everybody. And some people are running,
Nobody's talking to her.
but nobody's reacting to her at all. She's just kind of like, what's happening? And then she's like, hey, Marcel the clown. And he's like, but keeps walking like nobody's. And then she
Yeah,
sees
and then big wig guy.
yeah, big wig who's, I'm going to call him Hyperdome owner. I know he's not, but whatever.
He's Doug Dimmadome.
Yeah. So he is like, okay. And he just goes, Annette. And she's like, what? And then she goes to the crowd and pushes through, and everyone's just standing around her dead father, apparently. And
Yeah, what the fuck?
and she screams. And I'm just like, weirdest death scene I've ever seen in my life. But you definitely, like, it should have been a moment that really tugged at your heartstrings, but didn't.
Yeah, because it was just like, hold on.
Yeah.
What?
So then they show a man like walking towards them, and I thought it was a child at first, like he had a newspaper, and it wasn't until he took off his hat that I was like, oh shit, that was an old man. Uh, so it shows Doc and Jimmy talking about the death because it's in the papers. Obviously, they play at the Hyperdome, so they're famous people. So it's in the papers that he passed away, and Jimmy and Doc are like, we really like that guy. And you see Jimmy's working on a plane, and Doc's like, we don't have to do this. And Jimmy's like, but I'm going to. So then you're like, okay, so I think Jimmy plans on flying. And then it cuts to another one of Annette's shows. And at first I was like, ooh, dudes in Speedos. No, dudes in weird diapers. I was like, that is the worst costuming ever. The ladies looked on point, but the fellas, who did
I mean,
that
I
to
guess
you?
from far away. I guess if you suspend belief and you think about it from like people watching in the audience, I guess they probably didn't look that bad. But yeah, up close it was like, ooh.
It was a diaper.
It looked like Minetta from My Hero Academia.
Yes.
With his
yes, with his weird pants. But the show itself, wow. Like once again, I just was like the athleticism, like of swimming in water. And also, okay, so I know a lot of the scenes on this are like you just see their head and they're smiling, right? But think about what's having to happen under that water while they're just
for them to
like
stay
their
in
whole
place.
body is being like while they have to maintain like nothing's happening.
Couldn't be me. Could not be me.
I try every time I'm in a pool. I'm like, I'm a dancer. So anyways, so another great show. And then fuck. Oh, she comes out.
This is when
They
Doug
end with the
Dimmadome.
sparklers. And I was like,
Yeah.
how did they bring the sparklers out of the water? And then they put it back in. Okay, so show's over.
And see, and you're thinking about the sparklers. That didn't impress me that much. I was just trying to figure out how they got all of the fog, because there was so much colored fog everywhere. It was just all, and I understand they were on a soundstage. It's not for real. But if we're thinking about this, it being in a theater, where the fuck did all the fog go?
Shh.
I can't. It's the autism. It's the autism. Where did it go? I need to
look. There was a guy, Marcel the clown had a big fan, right? And then other people were up at the top, and there were windows.
Opened all the back doors.
And as soon as the show was like, oh, curtains, they were like,
there were people out there with like newspapers.
Fog was like lifting up and out, and then next stage was set. That's how that happened. You're welcome. That's exactly how it went down. I bet if we look it up, they'll be like, damn it, that was close. You almost, that was pretty much spot on. So then next we see her, and this was probably one of my favorite dresses that she wore. It was the white one, and it had like the black sparkly and the black sparkly belt, and I was like, the fashion was getting good. Like when she's up there and famous and clearly making great money. And then so Doc shows up, and he's asking for her help. He's like, "Hey, Jimmy's about to do something real dumb and stupid. Please, God, come talk to him and talk him out of it, right?" And the
Mm-hmm.
dumb and stupid is that Jimmy has built this plane and he's gonna fly across the country. And so the guy who owns the Hydrodome or whatever is
Doug
clearly in
Dimmadome.
love.
That's what we're calling him. We're calling
Yeah,
him Doug Dimmadome.
yes, Doug Dimmadome is clearly in love with her, but he's very much playing the I'll be your friend too. Like, I just want you in my life. I see you doing dumb things and I clearly love you, but he's like, oh God, where was my train of thought going? Well, he wants to be like, be with me, but he's like, okay, you gotta go find Jimmy. Go fucking find Jimmy.
Do what you got to do. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm not
He's
gonna
like,
try to stop you.
okay, go find him. And so she goes to talk to him. She has a show first, though, which I thought was funny because I was just like, okay. She's like, I
Show
might
business, baby.
gotta gotta make that curtain call, but I will try to go help Jimmy. So she does. After her show, she immediately goes and finds Jimmy, who already has a girlfriend, a cute little blonde. He's kissing, and she walks up, and I was like, this is the most toxic thing I've ever fucking seen in my life. Because she at no point does she ever even bring up his safety. She's just like immediately like, hey, shithead. And he's like, what's up, bitch? Like, and she's just like, you can't fly today because I'm suing you. So you
She
made me
tries
do
to
it.
talk him out of it. She tries to talk him out of it at first, to being
Kind
like,
of.
"Bro, come on, come
She
on." But I
never
think she
actually is
knows
like,
him.
hey, you might die, or hey, your plane doesn't
Well,
look
she
great.
does.
Like,
She tries to
none
put
of
it on
that.
Doc. She tries to put it on Doc first. She's like,
Yeah.
"You're not
And
taking Doc up there.
who?
Like you, I don't care about.
Doc,
You can die, but Doc is not going up with you." And he's like, "Great, because Doc wasn't going up with me
right?
anyway." And that's
He's
when
like,
she's like, "All right, fuck it, I guess."
yeah, you made me do
Here,
it. I have to sue you
yep,
now. And she's like, I
yeah.
see you spent $200 of my money. You can't do anything until I see it. And he goes, oh, okay. Pulls out the ring he bought her and goes, boop, there you go. There's your 200. Enjoy it. And I'm flying away. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening here? So she takes the ring and she just kind of like, holy shit, and leaves. And he
Well, they
has a
kick her
little,
out, kind of. They basically
yeah.
tell her to get the hell off the runway.
So then it shows, it kind of does a little another montagey thing of like you see in the papers of like flyers seen here, flyers missing, flyer down, and so Jimmy's missing, but then like quickly found and just hurt, something like that. But she's at dinner with Doug Dimmadome and clearly trying to hear people's conversations and stuff about what's the flyers are doing, and Doug is like, look, I'm sure we'll see Jimmy again, but you want to get married? And she's like, can I think
Hold that
about
thought.
it? Yeah, she's
Yeah.
like,
Just
I
put a
don't know,
pin in that.
man. And he's like, I really want to marry you, so you just think about it. And I was like, wow, okay. So then,
There's
she
no for there being so much romance in this movie, there's no romance in this
none,
movie.
none. So, she also at this time is getting a offer to do a movie. Um, called Neptune's Daughter. And so this is like, wow, big times now to be able to do a movie.
Hmm.
And so
But as she's listening to everyone talk, that's when she realizes that he's been found, and she's like, "I gotta get to a phone." And she like, I don't even know where she goes to find this phone. She's in the same outfit. Does she go in the
yeah,
back room somewhere of the
and
restaurant? I don't
maybe
know. But she goes and she finds a phone and she calls. I don't know how she found out what hospital he would have been at, but she finds out
don't
and
worry
she's
about
talking to
it.
the lady on the phone and she's like, "Hey, you know Jimmy?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, the crazy flying guy." And she's like, "Yeah, is he okay?" And she's like, "Hey, he's fine. He checked himself out like an hour ago." And she's like, "Ugh, where'd he go?" And she's like, "Bitch, I don't, who the fuck tells the hospital that? Even now, you don't know where I am. Don't track me like that." And
Right?
so she's like, "Oh god damn it." She's like, "It's on the phone."
Yeah. She's like, damn it. Which I will at least say this. We are talking about a time in phones where the operator was literally like always there. Like
Listening.
you
Yeah.
pick up a phone and go operator. So I do feel like there was probably like, hey, operator, I need this hospital, this city. And the operator's kind of like, I got this hospital near this city and okay. And then
Yeah.
clearly HIPAA didn't exist back then and nurses were able to be like,
Oh
oh
no.
yeah, he was here. This was his exact diagnosis. This is what we did for him. I don't know where he
Yeah.
went. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Like
Also, who the hell are you?
never
Don't
even
know.
asked. Never even asked
No.
who she was. She just like, oh yeah, I treated that guy. Okay. So so then it cuts to they are going to make the movie and they're on a train, I think at this point, right? And
Yeah, well, she it shows a like a Christmas scene with her where she's at some like giving to the poor Christmas thing. There's like all these kids everywhere. And
yes.
she's like giving out free toys and Doug Dimmadome shows up and he's like, "Hey." And she's like, "Hey, what do you want for Christmas?" Because she's got this big ass box full of fucking toys right there and he's like, "I want an answer to the question I asked you like a
In
year
June.
ago."
He said
Yeah,
in June.
in June, and she's like, "Hee hee," and then it kind of cuts out, and
Yeah.
then you get a newspaper article about them being engaged, but they're going to do the movie first, and then it's this is confusing because it says movie first and then honeymoon. It doesn't actually mention anything about an actual wedding. So at this
Yeah.
point, you don't know if they're even actually married or not. Like what the fuck's happening? But then they show them and they're on this train going assuming they're going to the movie set to
Yeah.
get her in this film.
So they're on the train and it shows Jimmy is on the train and in
And he's
trigger
hawking
warning
wristwatches.
fashion, he's selling Native American Native American blankets and rings, and poor Doc is in brown
In brown
face, the
face.
full
Yeah.
feather. I mean, the most
Wig.
offensive, unnecessary thing ever. But you definitely from this scene get Jimmy has fallen. Jimmy not successful in any way anymore. He's down to hawking things on a train. And he ends up walking into their room because the guy he's trying to sell to is like, no, get the fuck out of my face. Go away. He opens their door to sell things, sees it's her and him, and is me like, oh, hey guys, how's it been? I'm good. I'm great. I'm about to open a whole new show and stuff. And uh they're like, "Oh, we're about to go do a movie." And he's like, "Well, awesome. Good for you. And I see
Yeah,
you
and she
guys
makes
are
she
about to
makes
get
an awkward
married." Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
she makes such an awkward comment where she's like, "Oh, are those hand loomed?" And he's like, "Oh, this was a gift. I'm not selling things. This was a gift that
Oh, no, he says
we're
these are
just
for a friend. He was like, "My
yeah,
friend just needed extra. He got above himself and he
that's
needed
it.
to
That's
get
it.
rid of this stuff. So this isn't my gig, but I'm helping a friend." And she's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay." And Jimmy like walks
And then the
away.
train conductor no, the train conductor shows up right there while they're talking to them and is, like, demanding their tickets. And Jimmy is like they're, like, arguing, and he's like, "Can we do this anywhere else?
Yeah,
Please, anywhere else. If this is about tickets, I got money. I got money, I promise I have
yeah,
money." And then he starts spouting off something about some like Indian, that's what they say, Indian act about allowing free travel to anyone that's going to their reservation or whatever. And the conductor's like, "I've never fucking heard of that." And they he eventually gets him out of
yeah.
their line of sight. But then Doug Dimmadome and Lady are looking at each other like, "Oh God."
They're like, oh. So then Doug is like, and she looks sad. She's kind of like, oh my God, Jimmy's in trouble. And
Hmm.
Doug is looking at her like, God damn it. Do you want me to give him some money? You want me to help him out? And she's like, no, no, no. I just got to go talk to him. And he's like, all right. So she runs after him and she does like is hiding behind a corner and she's hearing Jimmy kind of play because they also have a dog at this time. And he's like, I'm telling you, he's the next big thing in Hollywood and you could be co-owner and you just forget this whole ticket thing. And, just doing his Jimmy thing, selling this and getting out of trouble by talking and stuff. And she's listening to this and I love how at no point is she going, "Oh my god, he's such a fucking loser." She just makes this face of, "That's my Jimmy. He's gonna make it," and like just walks away. Like she just went, "He's got it. That's my baby," and like goes like he's gonna be a-okay. He can
It's like
still scam the
it's
best of them. Like,
it's NFTs with real animals.
yeah,
Like it's fucking tech bros in the 1920s.
yeah. So she's now on the movie set and they are filling up the tank and the one guy's like maybe we need more water and the technician's like I'm telling you it he's like that's glass, right? Like it and like girls are setting up and you can see it's a big thing. And Doug Dimmadome goes to find her because they're like we're ready for her on set. And he's like okay, so we need to get married now. I want to get married now, right now. And
Mhm.
she's like, but we said let's wait. And he was like, but let's not. And she's like, okay, well, I got to get to set and we'll talk about this later.
Yeah,
And
but then he looks down and she's got a ring
oh,
on her finger, and it is
no,
not his ring. It's
no, she starts looking around. She's like, "Oh yeah, your conversation's important to me." As she's like looking
yeah,
at,
yeah, yeah,
and
that's
he
what
looks
happened.
down on the floor and sees a very clearly engagement ring. And he's like, "Is this what you're looking for?" And she went, "Oh, ha ha ha. Yeah, it's just my lucky charm." And she puts it on and she sees that he's still staring at it. So she goes, "Oh, but it's stupid." And she drops it in the box and she's like and she goes on set, right? And he's kind of sitting there like, "Fucking Jimmy." And so as she's in there and she's doing her thing and she's dancing, cracks start building up on the tank. And you're like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And the tech guy's like, uh-huh. And he looks down, he sees cracks, and he's like, get her out of there. It's cracking. And everyone's running. And she's, of course, underwater, so she can't really hear what's happening. And she looks out and sees people running, and before she can even react, the tank explodes open and you're like, oh my god. And they find her, there's a little blood on her hand and she's passed out and you're like, oh my god, she's died. uh, but she hasn't died. We're in the hospital, but she does have a broken back, or not broken back, there's he says
A spinal
hematoma.
fracture.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
and
spinal fracture.
and he was able to get pressure off of it, but probably will never walk again.
Well, at
Definitely
first
is
they
not
say she'll
dancing
never.
again.
Well, at first he says that they're never walking again, and then he says something about surgery, and then he says it'll take at least a few months that she won't be walking. I don't know. It's confusing.
Yeah.
I don't think they know what they're talking about.
I do feel
I
like
don't know enough.
he yeah, I feel like they really did pull the whole just throw some medical jargon in, but I feel like what
Yeah.
I got from it personally from what he said was that she may walk again with some work, but she'll never be the athlete she was. Like diving in a
And
pool's never happening again. Dancing, not her thing. She might get to walk again though. But that's what I got out of it anyways. That
is it at this point that he shows up?
yeah, Jimmy's at the hospital and he wants
Yeah,
to
Jimmy's
see her.
there
And
with the fucking
so
dog. And it's
Doug
so it's the
Dimmadome,
doctor, Doug Dimmadome, and Jimmy. They're
yeah,
all listening to this. And then they're
yeah,
like, "Well, did you tell her?" And he was like, "I didn't see any reason not to. It's her fucking body,
right?
basically. Of course I told her." And then they're like, "Oh, gotta get in there." And they
Yeah,
both like rush into her like bed where she is just like she's awake, but she's just like, my whole fucking life is over.
yeah,
My life is I might as well have just died, is the look on her face of like, why'd I even live through this if I can't fucking do anything
Yeah.
that I was doing before? Absolutely heartbreaking.
So she sees Jimmy, like she's kind of sitting there sad, and she looks over and she sees Jimmy and she's like, "Oh my God, fucking Jimmy, how are you?" And it turns out that dog from the train, oh, that's Rin Tin Tin. And so
Hello.
he found Rin Tin Tin. He's a very successful man now. And but he was so worried about her. He heard about her accident. He just had to come see her, and she's just like, "Oh wow, that's so amazing for you. Obviously, life's not going great for me." And so then he's like, she's like, "I love you, Jimmy," pretty much, and he's like, "Look, you're gonna marry Doug Dimmadome, and you're gonna be happy." And Doug Dimmadome walks up, and he's like, "No, I see this love. I see what this is. You two are gonna get married. You two will be happy.
Here's your ring back,
Yeah,
by
here's
the
your
way.
ring. You guys enjoy that. I'm Audi 5000." And
Best choice he ever made.
right, but then so then she's just kind of like, "Oh, I'll get to." He's like, "We'll settle down. You'll have some kids." And she's like, "Yes, I get to settle down." And then it goes the end, and I was just like, dark.
Fuck me.
I feel
Fuck
like you
me.
meant for that to be a happy ending, but no part of that felt happy to me. I'm like, "Oh, you're now paralyzed. You've lost your career, but you get to be happy that you get to marry salesman Jimmy, who
Who's gonna
shit on
neg you
you
for the rest
and
of your
abandoned
life?
you for your successes. But don't worry, he won't do that again because now he's the successful one and you're a paralyzed stay-at-home mom." So, and I also love that the doctor wouldn't have been like, maybe no to babies, because if your back's already fucked up, maybe not a great idea, but hey, don't worry about it. Like,
Uh, I'm and see now I'm thinking about the medical implications and like how far we had come with like C-sections in the 20s. There's no way. You can't push. If you're paralyzed, how you getting the logistics?
yeah,
The logistics. How it's just this whole movie was a fucking nightmare. It was so good. It was a good fucking movie, but the entire thing was meant to be like semi-inspirational, I think, the way they shot
yeah,
it. It was supposed to be, but
yeah,
it is just a nightmare.
yeah,
Like it does the perfect it's like the antithesis to the hero's journey. Like we start out somewhere, we get we're going on an adventure, we get to the height of the adventure, the bad thing happens, and where the hero's journey would just continue with our hero defeating the bad thing and coming back to where they started but in a better place. Instead, we get to the bad thing happens and then it just ends.
yeah.
Like, there
Because
is no conclusion to the hero's journey in this.
yeah, because you have to remember, women don't get heroes' journeys. Like, and that, and
Not in the
honestly,
fucking
even before, so I have to admit, I've never heard of Annette
mm-mm,
before any of this. And so
mm-mm.
while watching this movie, all I could think was like, man, did the men really control her life like that? Probably. It was the 1920s. They couldn't vote yet. And oh, and she's playing, yeah, the
Does
1920s.
she even own her own money?
Exactly. So then I was like,
Does
so
she have
that probably
access?
was
Like,
true. You are being pushed to marriage at that time. Not many women did have careers if they even could. Um, so there was a part of me that was like, it felt propaganda-y, but there was a part of me that was like, but how true is this? So
mm-hmm.
here's the truth. This woman was amazing, and we should know her fucking name, but we don't.
Mm.
So I will say I did find it funny. So she lived until 1975, and
Damn.
right? I was like, whoa. But that only made her like 88 when she died. Uh, which I was like, feels weird to see that, to have lived through that much technological advance. But then Jarrett was like, we've
You think
lived through
about
that much
us.
technological advance. I was like,
Yeah.
I guess that's true.
And that
Like,
many moments in history too.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely. So, and she said that this movie, so she saw this movie and she called it a sad attempt and pish posh. She called it pish posh. I was like,
get it, girl.
yeah, right.
Get them.
So she was born in 1886 in Potts Point, Australia. And she was born with rickets. That's why she had the leg
Oh,
braces.
rickets. I forgot about
Yes.
rickets. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So me too. I immediately thought polio too. So I was like, rickets makes sense. So unlike in the movie, it wasn't she just jumped in the pool. The doctors prescribed swimming and told her that would give her strength. And she had a mom and dad, and they both played. They were both music lovers and had the center. But she so kind of like in the movie, swimming, was good at swimming, did competitions and stuff. And when she was an adult, she decided to go to London because she loved races and performing. As far as I could tell, uh, it's not much on her parents, but the whole storyline of it, like, I did find one history thing from, I think that one was Oxford or something like that. A lot of this was like UK news and stuff because
Mhm,
she's more famous for Australians and uh,
mhm,
Europeans, obviously. But she that her dad did go with her to London, but there was just like no evidence at all that it was purely driven. Like in the movie, they took away all autonomy of she had career goals away from her
mhm,
at every point, every turn. She only ended up places because her father needed her in places or a man needed her to be there or wanted her to be there. So that
mhm,
was very much not actual. She wanted to perform, so she went to London where she liked playing with her sexuality and putting it out there and she liked the attention, so she would get famous for the whole One Piece thing. But it wasn't she wasn't arrested on an American beach for it.
mhm.
She did get arrested in America, but she actually brought the most scandal from that apparently when she was doing a show for the Royals. She showed up with her legs out, and that made them be like, "Oh." And then but for the most part she would wear the stockings under the shorts,
Mm,
the tight suit before um it wasn't like, oh, she was foreign and showed up in this foreign outfit. No, she knew the modesty laws. She just didn't
gotcha.
necessarily follow them.
Agree with them.
Her vaudeville show was super fucking popular. It was just like that. She did all, but she did so much more than just what they showed, from her diving stunts to everything. Like she had acrobatics in there. She did a drag king section where she cross-dressed and called herself
Mm,
English Johnny and had a monocle and a
mm.
top hat. She did ballet. She did ballet underwater, over water. Um, and she even was kind of the spokesperson for women's health back then because they donned her as having the perfect Venus de Mayo body. So
Mm.
she had over 40,000 subscribers to her meal plan that would get mailed out to you. To
Oh.
Yeah, and she was ahead of her time in a way of because this, of course, we're 1920s, so this was the very thin, boyish type bodies were
Mhm,
what's in. She was very much saying, no, gain the weight so you can exercise and build muscle. And so she was very ahead of her time with that type of advice, even on the men's side. But especially for women, she would go on to make 14 movies. And
oh,
she
wow.
did all of her own stunts. She would not get a stunt. She did 20-meter dives. And
God damn.
right, that's high as fuck, dude. And she, for a movie, did a 20-meter dive into a crocodile pool. She swam with crocodiles for a movie, and fucking crazy.
You could
She is the
$5
one.
million. Pay me $5 million and maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, right.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Especially back then, you were
Mm-mm.
super likely to fucking die because there was
Mm-hmm.
no safety for your ass.
Mm-mm.
So
What if
she's
she
also
landed
the
on a
one,
crocodile?
right?
What if she landed like smack dab on top of one? You know how hard those things are?
Yeah.
Concussion, instant death, instant.
So she started doing her movies in like 1909, so that puts her like early teens. Her
Mm.
first four movies are actually gone to history, like they just don't exist anymore. But you can still see some of her movies. It was in Neptune's Daughter, the one the $1 million movie, because it was one of the first movies ever to make $1 million. Um,
Mm.
she wrote it and then pitched that script because the vaudeville people she was working with were trying to cut her pay. And she was like, fuck you guys, I'm out. So she
Mm-hmm.
wrote this script and she was like, hey, what do you think of this movie? And a guy was like, yeah, I'll put my name on that. Because, of course, she
Mm-hmm.
even was proven to pretty much direct her own movies. Pretty much every man around her was just like, here, give me your ideas. I'll put my name on that. And great, you'll be an actress in this. Um, so she made that very successful movie. She's also the first woman to appear nude in a movie. Her hair covered her, and it was a 3 hour fucking long ass movie called like The Gods something. She would so the tank, I love how this movie had to make it so a woman chasing success can't win, and the greatest success we can ever achieve is being married, you know? But like in real life, yes, the tank did break and she did get injured. She also, when jumping off a cliff, got a concussion on this movie. Um, but she was fine otherwise. It wasn't a big, she did not hurt her spine. She went on to make other movies. She was very famous. Um, and even in World War II, she did marry her manager named Jimmy, though, but he doesn't seem to be as sleazy, and he did not
Mm-hmm.
find Rin Tin Tin. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's not much on him other than he married her, and I think they were happy together. Um, oh, during World War II, she worked for the Red Cross, of course, entertaining the troops. Um, she did swim the rivers Thames, but she went 13 miles. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
which impressive. I couldn't fucking do it,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't the
Mm-mm.
huge thing they did. She would go on to try and attempt to swim the English Channel 3 times, but eventually did have to say, hey, I got the stamina, but I don't have the brute strength you need to complete that swim. So she never actually
Mm.
completed it, but still uh, was one of the fastest swimmers of her time. Um, when getting arrested in America, it is because of her that they lightened up on women's swimsuits in America. So
Mm.
thank you, Annette, for that. Um, her swimsuit got her the most attention. She would start the vaudeville. Oh, she started in Chicago and Boston and then moved to New York. The Hyperdome seems to be a London thing, not a New York thing. Um, which I was like, what the fuck? Uh, and then oh yeah, they got married in 1912. Um, and then yeah, she died in 1975. And she considered her greatest achievement the liberating of the women coverings. So she was very
Mm.
proud of loosening modesty laws. So
Mm.
yeah, she's fucking cool. And oh, she did. They would also like vote her the world's perfect body and stuff, and she was like,
Mm.
yeah, neck down. So she was funny and
Mm.
a real go-getter, and I was just like, fucking 1950s. And the closest thing I could think of is kind of like whitewashing. They really took someone's history, and I was like, and mighty bold of you to also do this to a woman who was currently living also, and take her life and mush it into this weird propaganda of 1950s housewife of, yeah, sure, women could be go-getters, but all you're gonna get is a broken back, and you'll be lucky to get that husband. Like,
It's so weird. Even now when I went to watch this movie, it has it listed as a documentary. And
no.
that's even when I was watching it, I was like, this is not a documentary.
No.
And I understand I'm looking at it through a modern lens of what we consider a documentary to be. But even I feel like back then touting this as a documentary was just a lie.
Oh yeah.
That no. At no time in the course of history could this ever have been considered an actual documentary. And it's so
Yeah.
funny that apparently this is all just a bunch of fucking hoopla and lies, and it's still being listed on Amazon as a documentary.
Oh yeah.
Like,
And
hello, what?
even when you do look like her stuff up, this movie of course comes up. And it's very much like God, just like what our other choice was of being like, because that was my other choice was this. When I was trying to decide to find a sports figure, female lead, I was like, how many sports movies are there? And I was like, why is Venus and Serena's movie not Venus and Serena? It's King
About
John or
Richard,
whatever it is. Yeah,
King Richard. Yeah, it's
King
about their
Richard,
dad.
the story of Venus and Serena. Why is their sports movie about their fucking father? Not that I'm not saying he wasn't a great man and didn't train them really hard. Great. But aren't they the hard workers who
See,
competed?
and I
Like,
haven't watched that movie, so I don't even know if the
I haven't
content
either. I haven't
reflects. I
seen
don't know
it.
what the conflict contents reflect at all. But yeah, that did
Yeah.
when that first came out and I saw what it was called and everything, I was like, it's just like here we go again. Can we please just can you please just talk about us without can you please talk about us in a way that passes the Bechdel test in
Yeah.
our own fucking movies, for the
Yeah.
love of God.
Yeah. It's and then so then I was like, well, how many sports movies, how many female sports lead movies are there? Because there are a lot of men's sports movies. And there's not a lot, not a huge list. And that's why we ended up with this movie, because I was like, okay, so a movie about women in the 1950s is supposed to be women empowerment. Oh, and so she was such a go-getter and so impressed people with her athleticism so much that in one, it was a New York Times article or something, and they said it in a very old-timey way, so I definitely can't fucking quote it, but it was very much in a way of like she was so athletic, she made people consider like women should have voting rights. Like, like it was like, why would we consider women lesser when a woman can do these things, And I was just like,
Every little bit, I guess. Every little
yeah,
bit, I guess.
yeah. But I was like, but that's how good she was. And that's what we're talking like it is almost having to put things in perspective, because it's just like you're talking about a time in history women could not own property, we could not vote, and she was still able to go out there and have a career, a successful career, breaking barriers, making people question, why do we consider women lesser when look what she's doing? And she's doing it in a time when clearly most people would be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
Mhm.
and so I feel like it does kind of suck that we don't know her name. Like, I've never fucking heard of her before, ever. Like,
Mm-mm.
and they did I was reading one article, and it was like apparently there is a museum for her, I think, in Australia. And they were like even the people working at the museum were like, no, I never heard of her until I started working here. And like they said her legacy outlived her name. So like we benefit from the things she fought for, but nobody knows like why it
Who she
started,
actually is.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Crazy.
right. But I was like, pleasantly surprised on the history end. And there are photos of her. I was like, she was pretty. And I like her body type. It wasn't like some kind of unattainable body type at all, you know.
What was her name again? Annette what?
Kill. Oh, hold on.
Kellerman.
Yeah, Kellerman.
Oh, that's the famous picture with the
The
late.
famous
Hold on.
picture.
It is.
Share the screen.
I'm attempting to. Give me 1 second.
The fans need to know what's for.
Like, I have seen this picture so often. Now you've got me all fucked up and I forgot how to do things.
What? Isn't it the very
There it is.
middle screen thing?
I found it.
You're pulling a Belinda.
This one.
I'm not seeing your screen.
God fucking damn it.
There we go.
This one. I've seen this picture literally my entire life.
Yep. So that's her special
her.
suit where she wears the. You can see the stockings under the men's suit. And her mermaid
Yeah,
outfit over here.
She did have a pretty robust figure for that time.
Yeah.
The Australian mermaid who introduced recreational swimming to American women.
Yep.
Is it Queen of the Sea? Yep, it's this one. Titties out, hair down. Oh, that's from the movie.
That's from the movie. That's Esther. And apparently this movie put her at stardom, made her starlet. This is one of her first ones.
Yeah,
I thought she did a good
very
job,
pretty.
like as an actress.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like she did a really great job.
Yeah.
In the movie. Yeah, Annette was very pretty, but yeah, I can see what she's saying, like about the physique.
Yeah.
Of like, no, put some meat on your bones, ladies.
Right?
Yeah, I can see it. But yeah, I didn't realize this picture that I've seen literally my entire life. Every time they talk about women's fashion and how it's evolved, you see this picture of this swimsuit with her standing on this stupid fucking rock.
Yep.
I didn't ever know who she was.
Now we know. She's why we can wear bikinis. She started it all.
Crazy.
Right? Good times. But that's it, guys. That's all I have to say. I think we rambled on so much now.
Yeah, you got like fucking 2 hours of footage, half of it talking about fucking anime.
Right?
My bad. I had the dolphin brain today.
What an episode.